Welcome. Today we will be discussing how to multiply and divide decimals. We will begin first with multiplying decimals. When we talk about multiplying decimals, it follows a very simple rule. Now this will apply for any decimal situation we're multiplying, whether it's a decimal by a whole number or two decimals by each other or whatever it might be. So let's look at an example. Say we have 3.75 times 12.1. In this instance, I have a value with decimals to the hundredths place, tenths, hundredths, and one with the decimal to the tenths place. So now when I multiply these values, what I'm going to do is remove the decimal from both numbers completely. So what I'm going to have is 375 times 121. What I need to remember though is where my decimal is going to go at the end. That's going to be determined based on how many values I have after a decimal place. In this case, in 3.75 I have 1, 2, and in 12.1 I have 1. So together, since I'm multiplying those numbers together, I have 3 values after the decimal. So that means I'll be moving my decimal 3 places by the time I'm finished with this. So let's multiply these. 375 times 121. Again, I've just dropped the decimal. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 1 is 15. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 7 is 7. And 1 times 3 is 3. Add all of our values up. We get 5, 7, 13, 15, 4. 4, 5, 3, 7, 5. 45,375. Now remember, we have to move our decimal back. This is the most important step, otherwise this is incorrect. I said there was 3 values after my decimal between my values that I was multiplying. And so since there was 3 values after, I have to move my decimal 3 times. Decimal is currently here on the right. I need to move it to the left 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. And that'll give you my solution of 45.375. Alright, so that's multiplying decimals. But dividing is a slightly different process. Let's say we had 12.12 divided by 3.6. And we wanted to say, how many times can 3.6 go into 12.2? Well, dealing with decimals in the denominator terms, being the term we're dividing by, makes it kind of complex. And so what we like to do is turn these into whole numbers. We want to make the denominator a whole number. So in this case, we have 3.6 going into 12.12. But again, we want to get rid of that decimal. So in order to get rid of decimals when we're dividing, what we need to do is recognize what place is our decimal in the term on the outside. Our 6 is our decimal place, and it's in the tenths place. Since it's in the tenth place, that tells me I need to multiply 3.6 by 10. In doing so, if I multiply those, I would get 36. It essentially removes the decimal from the equation. But I can't just multiply that by 10 and call it done. I need to also multiply the term on the inside by 10. In doing so, that's going to give me 121.2. Now that's okay. The term on the inside can still be a decimal. It's the term on the outside that needs to remove the decimal. We need to have a whole number on the outside. So let's go ahead and divide these now. Okay, so we have 121.2 divided by 36. And we see 36 goes into 121 3 times, which will give me 108. I subtract my terms, and I'll have 13. Bring down my 2. And since I'm bringing down a decimal value, I need to bring the decimal up. 36 can go into 132 3 times again, and that's going to give me 108. We subtract to give us 24. We're going to have to add a 0 here and bring that 0 down. 36 goes into 240 6 times. That's going to give me 216. And then I'm going to get 24 again here. So I'm going to have actually a repeating value. We're going to continuously be going into 240. So this is going to be 3.36 repeating. So we'll go ahead and stop there. So that is how we divide our decimal. We end up with our solution of 3.36. Because 3.6 goes into 12.12 3.36 times, just like 36 goes into 121.2 3.36 times. Moving the decimal is maintaining that proportion, so that is why it's important when we move the decimal on the outside, we also move the decimal on the inside. And that is how we divide decimals.